No, no, no. The election cannot be delayed. Under the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, the Parliament must be dissolved on that date in June, and within 90 days, the general election must be called. The only thing to prevent a general election in Trinidad and Tobago is a state of emergency. And there is no state of emergency, and this partnership government is not well noted for creating a genuine state of emergency. So the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago requires the Prime Minister to call a date for the election. She could keep it as long as she wants, but she has to call that date in a short while, and she has to face the polls. I know there may be anxiety and fears by governments which believe that they may lose, but the Constitution and the law provides that. They have to do it.
Okay, Mr. Marad, switching gears, we want to get a little bit about Mr. Jack Warner. How do you feel about this whole fiasco that has unfolded?
There's the latest allegations from the Egyptian government that
Yes.
he asked them for a bribe. And they're not bringing that.
Well, extradition proceedings. I was the Attorney General when the extradition treaties were negotiated between the United States of America, Britain, and England. And as a matter of fact, the Secretary of State, Mr. Warren, came to Trinidad and Tobago to sign that extradition treaty. In negotiating that treaty, it is recognized that the Americans and the British and the Canadians, in any extradition request, has to recognize that there is a presumption of innocence and there is due process of law. So the government would have to produce evidence that can be accepted in a court of law, that there is a case against Mr. Warner. And therefore, until that is done, there must be the presumption of innocence. Until that is done, there must be, as in all of these cases, criminal cases, presumption of innocence. So all that probably the Egyptian, the South Africans, the Americans, the British, whoever are saying, there has to be evidence of that in a court of law. Mr. Warner will be entitled through his lawyers to cross-examine and to show that there is no case against him. And that has to be done in the court. And Mr. Warner would be entitled, like any other individual, to apply to the magistrate to have the proceedings quashed on the grounds of a breach of public law principles or on the ground of a violation of constitutional rights. Under Section 14 of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Warner can ask for the matter to be referred to the High Court to determine whether his rights have been infringed, and the Judicial Review Act of Trinidad and Tobago give him and his lawyers the right to go to court to apply for judicial review in respect of the matter. And in respect of all those matters, he has a right of appeal to the High Court and a right of appeal to the Privy Council. So this process can take 2 months, or it can take 5 or 7 years. This is not a process where, because a